Hello everyone, happy July 4th. So I saw Transformers Dark of the Moon over the weekend. It was the third and last one by Michael Bay. Came out last weekend, I think it was Wednesday. And as expected, critics, well, they didn't like it, but that's critics for you. And like all Michael Bay movies and all Transformers movies in general, there were a lot of special effects, but this is Transformers we're talking about. I think Michael Bay was pretty much allowed to get away with special effects and using them excessively because, well, half the characters are made out of special effects anyway. So, the movie stars Shia LaBeouf as Sam Witwicky, I believe that's how you say it. It also stars Josh Duhamel as I think he's a lieutenant colonel for the Nest operations team, but yeah, he's been in all three movies. So, of course, his return was expected. It also has Leonard Nimoy from the Star Trek, the original from however long ago that was. He actually voices Sentinel Prime in this movie. And of course we have Hugo Weaving as Megatron, with a special appearance from Ken Jeong as Deep Wang. And let me tell you, that was a joke that I got tired of pretty quick. In fact, the guy pretty much said it 3 times, followed by the "Do you get it?" to Sam Witwicky, you know, trying to explain the whole joke of, "Oh, my name is Deep Wang." And now some problems I've been hearing about the movie and in terms of its characters such as Megatron is the ability, or the inability rather, to identify with them. You know, you look at this guy, Megatron, and you see that he's a gunmetal color. He has really no defining characteristic other than half his head's missing. He has red eyes and he has, I don't know, chains around him. But with the way the movie is paced, you're not going to see these chains. You're barely going to recognize the eyes, especially when there's dozens of other Decepticons with the same pair. So I actually did my own little nitpicking, and I tried to distinguish them, and all I got out of Megatron was that half his head was missing. In the case of Starscream, he's shaped like a triangle, and let me tell you, I think this is probably one of the most weirdly shaped Decepticons, but, you know, hey, at least I had something to distinguish him with. Now, with the Autobots like Sentinel Prime, you could distinguish them because most of them were actually color-coded, and because Sentinel Prime was just a red version of Optimus, really, with a pair of wings, excuse me. And here's where I'll emphasize it again. I mean, you see that Sentinel Prime was red, Optimus is mostly blue with a bit of red, but you can distinguish them because they're color-coded, unlike the Decepticon. Because I'm not going to lie, most of the Decepticons actually looked like Megatron in that they were a gunmetal color with red eyes. They had no other distinguishing characteristics. I mean, you look at Bumblebee, you see he has color. He's yellow. You can distinguish him because he's yellow. You can distinguish Optimus because he's blue, and you can distinguish Sideswipe because he's red. But in the case of the Decepticons, you just can't tell them apart hardly. Although, the only Decepticons I could really pick out were Razorbeak, who was basically a robotic bird, Shockwave, who was a one-eyed behemoth from hell, and Megatron, who just happened to have half his head blown off. Other than that, I couldn't recognize him either, so I guess you just have to settle with it being that Megatron is pretty much the only distinguishable one, and all the others are just generic Decepticons. Now, in the case of Ironhide here, and there's also some spoilers to follow after this statement, but you can't really tell who he is. I mean, he has nothing distinguishable about him, other than, you know, he's a giant robot. But there's dozens of giant robots. You just can't tell some of these guys apart. But I have to admit that Michael Bay has gotten better with identifying them, but he's only done so with the Autobots, who really we only explore anything about them. We never learn anything new about any Decepticons other than Megatron, Starscream, and the Fallen guy from the second movie. On a more positive note with the Autobots, they actually remove Skids and Mudflap, the 2 comical characters from the second movie, mostly because people had a lot of problems with them and their stereotypical ghetto-sounding, just the way that they were the Jar Jar Binks of the whole movie, in that they sounded like they were just racially profiling people with these movies, or characters rather, and, well, Michael Bay got smart and got rid of them, which I applaud him for that. I'm glad he's actually listening to people that are complaining. Now, I did have issues with Sam's character in that the first half of the movie actually focuses on him and how his life is going. Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't care how Sam's life's going. I don't care that he can't get a job. I don't care that his life is so miserable even though he's dating a freaking Victoria's Secret model. Yeah, I don't care to hear that. I'm sorry. It just doesn't float well in a Transformers movie about Transformers. I honestly felt like the Transformers movie, or the characters rather, were secondary to their own fucking movie just because we had to focus on Sam and his sorry excuse of a life. And in the case of the Nez characters, I honestly didn't like them from the get-go. I honestly don't understand why they're in the movie. At least in the third one, they didn't serve much of a purpose other than serving as fodder for the Decepticons to blow up and kill, just so we could keep some of our Autobots alive. And in the case of Hugo Weaving's character, Megatron, I honestly felt like Megatron was just discarded as a whole. He was just there for the sake of being there, you know, just for the sake of saying, oh hey, Megatron's in the third movie, don't worry. But his role was so minor, he honestly felt like a secondary villain to his, you know, he's supposed to be the main antagonist. But he felt so secondary and so left out, and he also just kind of became the main villain sort of bitch in a way, so Megatron just kind of loses that threatening appearance that he had in the first two movies. And as we all know, Megan Fox is not in this movie, and there's actually a lot of controversy going around that, most notably her Hitler comment to Michael Bay, to which Steven Spielberg told Michael Bay, just get rid of her, she's nothing, she's useless, especially if she's going to run around saying that. Hey, I'm sorry, Steven Spielberg, but if you haven't been catching up with modern society, a lot of people are actually comparing, let's see, George W. Bush, even the current President Obama, to Hitler. There are people always comparing other people to Hitler. I don't see how this is a special occasion. And Megan Fox's character was not really that well received. In fact, it's mostly Michael Bay's fault, because if you look at the way he's directed this movie, he portrays her as eye candy. And, I mean, yes, that's about all she's good for, and sorry, I'm getting distracted, but you know, she got tired of it, she made her stand, she showed some self-respect, and she got the hell out of the movie. Oh, but you know, Steven Spielberg was telling Michael Bay, get rid of her, get rid of her. But, you know, she got smart, she walked out on her own, and honestly, I really want to spend time just not liking this woman at all, because I think she's a bitch. She's pretty, but she's, you know, she's selfish, she feels like she's better than everybody else, but she actually did something right, and she actually gave Michael Bay the middle finger and threw up some deuces saying, I'm gone, I'm done with this movie. But seriously, I don't get the big deal about comparing Michael Bay to Hitler, because, well, there's a lot of things you can compare him to. I guess Hitler isn't the most accurate one, but he's honestly just a little child playing at his own movies. All he does is he throws in as much sex jokes as he can. He puts in the dumbest humor. Even in the third movie is a lot more tame, but even its humor was still kind of dull. And actually, the humor would have been a lot better if it wasn't so misplaced, in that you're trying to create these dramatic moments, but you instead move over to these two characters. They're two smaller robots, I forgot their names, but it basically cuts from, you know, Scorched Earth, Ground Zero, whatever you want to call it, to these two clowns just kind of running around going, oh my god, guys, we're so lost. Where are we at? It ruins the dramatic effect of the movie, and it honestly just made it worse than what it could have been. This movie could have been so much more dramatic if they just timed everything correctly, because you do it once, okay, you let it slide. You do it 5 other freaking times, no, you just ruin your own mood. Like, you don't know how to take this. You don't know if you should take this movie seriously. You don't know if you should feel sad or whatever. And with more spoilers to follow, Ironhide was actually one of the major Autobot characters, but his death is just honestly ignored, aside from Sam Witwicky, who like just stares at Ironhide's decaying body after being shot by Sentinel Prime. Honestly, I don't get it. You would think Optimus would be upset that his right-hand guy just got killed, but he displays no emotion. He acts like the entire event just didn't happen. Then again, I guess we're introducing so many characters that we honestly don't know who's who. So, you know, the dramatic effect, yeah, it's not needed after all. So, congratulations, Michael Bay. You've established that nobody cares about your characters. But on a more serious note, the movie itself is not bad. The first hour is pretty boring. Like I said, it focuses on Sam Witwicky's life. Nobody cares to hear about Sam. Nobody cares to hear about Nest. We want to learn about the Autobots and the Decepticons. We want to know, I want to know personally, what are the Decepticons planning? What are the Autobots doing to stop it? No, we don't focus on that. Instead, we focus on the crap that is Sam, his life, his girlfriend, and just the stuff that just doesn't matter. It applies nothing to the plot. You could actually take the first hour of this movie out and still have a coherent plot with a decent amount of screen time for each character. You don't need this stupid biography about Sam's character. Nobody cares about Sam, but for some reason Michael Bay thinks we do, when we actually don't. But again, this movie, it's a huge step up from the second one. In fact, I actually won't compare it to the second one. I'll put it on its own standing. It's a good film. It's done well. The opening is probably one of the best openings I've seen in a movie in a long time. And the last hour of the movie is just action-packed. It's some of the best action I've ever seen in a movie. It's a lot better than any of the Star Wars movies. It's actually comparable in some ways to some of the more action-packed movies like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, although not on the same level, but still more towards that level. And a lot of people have said that, yeah, this movie, it's not as bad as number 2. No, it's a lot better than number 2. It's just the first hour just makes it seem like it's not as good. It's because it's so freaking long. This movie, I kid you not, runs at 2 hours and 40 minutes. That is a stupid long movie, but the last hour rewards you for sitting through the first 90 minutes. And, I mean, honestly, Optimus is portrayed in a most awesome way. It's just the problem I have is the way they portrayed everybody else. The Decepticons, ideally. Shockwave was supposed to be one of the main antagonists. And for those of you who don't know, Shockwave is this one-eyed Decepticon who's often commented by one of the NES characters as the scariest Decepticon he's ever seen. And I'm not going to lie, when the guy showed up, yeah, he was pretty scary. Even though he had, I think, one line in that entire film. But you don't learn anything about the Decepticons themselves. You learn a little about Megatron. You learn that he's had half his face blown off. He's still concocting a plan to destroy the Autobots and take over Earth. You still have Starscream, who's serving as Megatron's right-hand guy. You still have the secondary villain that the second movie had the Fallen. This one has another character who's the next big villain. And in fact, the secondary villain actually becomes the main villain because Megatron is kind of just cast aside as a secondary person, and he just kind of like gives up saying, oh great, I came up with this brilliant plan, but nothing came out of it. But honestly, I just could not stand the first hour of this movie. I was just ready for it all just to stop, just to end. I was getting sick of it. I was tired of listening to Sam whine. I was getting tired of hearing all this bullshit drama, all this other stuff that I didn't care to hear. It's just, and it's not that Shia's a bad actor. I actually realized that as I watched this movie. It's not Shia LaBeouf is a bad actor. It's not because Megan Fox is a bad actress. It's because Michael Bay's a horrible director. He's not good at directing. He's good at producing. Don't get me wrong. He's a hell of a good producer. He's just not good at writing, and he's not good at directing. So, with that said, Michael Bay, I have but one message for you.
Get back to your area.
And just stop with these Transformers movies, guy, because honestly, as a director and a writer, you have not done well. But, enough about Michael Bay, back to the movie at hand. As on its own, Transformers is a good movie. It's well written, or not well written, hell no. It's well produced. Not well written, not well directed. The plot sucks. The characters, you don't give a shit about them. Especially Sam, you don't care about him. The movie tries to make you care about him, but I just never found myself giving a crap about him or any of the other human characters. I only found myself caring really about the Autobots because, hey, that's what I want to see in these movies. I don't want to see Sam or Carly or any of those Nest agents, any of these other senators or anything like that. Actually, the plot is really hilarious because the Decepticons, they try to make a deal with the humans. They try to say, hey, we just want the Autobots out. We just need to collect some resources, and we'll get out of your planet. We'll leave you alone. Our well-conceived government, in all their wisdom, say, oh, these guys, they're called Decepticons. They seem trustworthy. Decepticons, trustworthy. Pay attention to those two words. And, they're like shocked, they're completely shocked that, oh my god, they betrayed us, and they seem so trustworthy. This makes no sense, okay, the next time you trust somebody that's called a Decepticon, yeah, I'm gonna automatically just call you an idiot. Because, honestly, it's these plot devices, that are honestly just crap. The movie's good. It's good and brainless entertainment at the end. It's worth waiting. It's waiting for that last hour. This plot just makes my head it's hard to wrap around. But honestly, if you're gonna buy this on DVD, just edit it, copy it, paste it, whatever. But cut out that first hour. You got yourself a made movie. So, do I recommend seeing this in theaters? Yes. In 3D? Hell no. 2 hours, 40 minutes of 3D? No. I'm sorry. I refuse to ever do that. I refuse. In fact, I'm kind of sick of 3D, but one thing I'm kind of starting to notice about these 3D things is that they're actually not broadcasted in the film previews. They're just kind of thrown on the side there. But anyway, that's been my review of Transformers Dark of the Moon. It's definitely an improvement from the last two movies. It's definitely worth seeing, although I would recommend being about 90 minutes or so late. That way you can enjoy the actual good parts of the movie. But this has been my review. I hope you found it helpful. I will see you next time.